Hi, I'm Beck and I'm a property investor.
And I'm Daria. I own my own home and I'm curious about investing.
We're the hosts of Investors in the Wild.
We've heard it all before. Build your wealth, get expert advice, learn about high yield, high growth investments, blah, blah, blah.
That's just not us. We're real mates with real talk about real estate. No ego, no financial advice.
It's all about wins you can use right now.
Let's get into it.
Previously on Investors in the Wild.
There's a really smart way in which you can make money. Everything we own, they are houses. Like, we haven't done units before. And I know that in our investor circle, Beck, that there's a lot of people who've learnt the hard way through units.
It's a secret all the little investors are running around and telling each other, but the wider world doesn't know about all this.
I just did like it was like a really simple maths, which I just like, okay, what will the loan repayments be? What will the rental income be? Okay, like, yeah, that's like $50 shortfall a week. That's manageable. But then it ended up being way more than that. Like, I think it ended up being like 300 a week once we got to the peak of interest rates. There ended up being holes through the pool, and we needed to pay for scuba divers to go in and try and locate these leaks. And she said, I've got one that's about to go onto the market right now. The owners want $580 for it. And I'm like, oh wow, that's like $100,000 cheaper than the other properties that we've been looking at. We made an offer pretty much straight away.
I'm tossing up a couple of options in terms of what the next investment should be. And I'd love to spar on this with you. The first option is we buy in Adelaide for much cheaper. We can buy a place for $700,000-800,000. It's, on a good block. We renovate it. The property values are growing in Adelaide quite significantly. We've also been thinking of buying again on the Central Coast, maybe a bit further up than what I've got at the moment, but buying something that's closer to the water. And it would be easier for us to renovate because we can go and spend our weekends there renovating rather than me having to relocate to Adelaide for 3 months, do a huge renovation job, and then hope to God nothing breaks, because it's a headache for us to get to Adelaide if I need to fix something up myself or get, because we like being hands-on and doing our own stuff.
Yeah.
And so how would you think about that? Like, we're talking about Adelaide, let's say $800,000 versus, I'll say Bateau Bay, because I know we've spoken about it. You get a place that's by the water there, it's 1.5 mil. So it's double. But Bateau Bay, I'd probably feel more confident of, because I know like the rough region, we can renovate a lot of the stuff ourselves, which will save money rather than me relying on people in Adelaide. How would you go through that thought process?
I think if I was to invest interstate, which I do want to at some point, I would go for something that doesn't need renovating.
Really? Because that's my whole shtick.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't need to be new. Like, doesn't need to be. It's just like, for the time being, it's like there might be the occasional maintenance cost. Actually, I'll tell what my sister-in-law did. Like, they looked at a buyer's agent, went, we're not spending $15,000. And so then she just went and called every single real estate agent in the area, built relationships with them, told them what her criteria was, said, we've got pre-approval, we're ready to go. And then like the real estate agent just called as soon as one came up. And I don't know, I forget the number with how much they spent below market value, but it was like well below market value. They didn't go and inspect it. I think they might have just done a video tour, and they've done really well out of it. She did a lot of research to know what sort of infrastructure was happening in that area, to know that that area was going to boom in Adelaide. So I'm going to take a leaf out of her book when it does come to the time to investing interstate.
I know, Beck, you're really hands-on, and you like to, for you, seeing is believing. So I feel like Beck is the type of person that even if she's got 200 real estate agents on the job, she will still review it and make sure that it's fit for purpose. Whereas I'm one of those who's just like, I'm going to trust your judgment. And so I'd be more like your friend who'd be like, I've taken a video tour and it looks good enough. But that's something I hadn't thought of doing. Rather than investing in a buyer's agent, multiply that by 20 agents around the area, and you've probably someone in there is going to give you a good deal. You're looking at, you're comparing two houses.
Yeah, I won't ever buy an apartment again.
Oh, okay. You too.
I really don't know a lot of investors who are like, yeah, I'd buy an apartment again. Or there are just a lot of ways you need to mitigate the risk with apartments. But yeah, Emma and I, when we've had the investor dinners and we're all around the table, it's like sharing horror stories about apartments. And so I won't.
It's interesting because not everyone can afford a house. So I think apartments is what's viable for many people. So it's really, it'd be good to know some positive stories of how apartments have worked out and what you need to do and the steps you need to take.
There will be positive stories, and it's about like buying early and holding. But I totally agree. It's not easy to buy houses if you've chosen not to buy apartments, which is why you buy regional or in Adelaide. Because you can't, like, who can buy a $3 million rundown house in Surrey Hills? Not many people.
On the topic of like finding areas that are going to boom when you don't know the area. So this same sister-in-law, I was talking to her about a month ago, and she spoke about Boom Score. Have either of you heard of Boom Score?
No.
I've never heard of it. I'm like, where's this been my whole life? But boomscore.com, so .com.au, and you can just type in any suburb, and then it gives you a score. And then it just breaks down all the variables that create that score. And they've also got like a top 50 list, like, so the areas that are going to boom next. And I've been playing around with that quite a bit lately. And I think that's a great way to find areas that you wouldn't have thought about. Because before that, like, I've always just looked around me. Like, I know the Central Coast really well. I know which areas where people have been fairly outpriced, so where there's a ripple effect to surrounding suburbs. But if you want to look interstate,
it's good to have another reference point to just review. There's a starting point for people who have no clue about where to invest and they want to invest, and interstate is probably going to be a likely option. Go to Boom Score to know where to start.
Absolutely.
What a genius tool that is.
Oh, it's so good. It's free.
You got a good price for Cessnock. Can we hear a bit more about that story?
That was kind of similar to what I mentioned about my sister-in-law having a relationship with a real estate agent. If I just take a step back, we chose Cessnock. It's a very specific pocket of Cessnock where it's like heading towards Pecolbin, the winery region. It's most of the houses are like 10 years old. Like, it's just slightly more upmarket part of Cessnock. It just attracts a lot of families. We went to a few inspections in that very specific pocket. And then my husband happened to have a conversation with the owner of that real estate agency. And she said, why didn't you get in touch with us? Like, we've got houses, like we're selling houses in that area all the time. And she said, I've got one on the market that's about to go onto the market right now. The owners want $580 for it. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's like $100,000 cheaper than the other properties that we've been looking at. So my husband went and inspected it, and it was pretty much exactly the same. 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, built 10 to 12 years ago, like just a really rock solid home. And so we made an offer pretty much straight away because we'd already inspected similar properties that were going for about $100,000 more. Truth be told, it hasn't increased that much in value since then, just because the market's just been so soft. But we bought it $100,000 below market value at that point in time.
Why were they selling it so much cheaper?
I don't know. I mean, I always look at, here's something I've been looking at recently, because we've been looking at the market recently. We do want to buy our next property. Is when was the house last bought, and what did they buy it for? You know how you can see that? You can actually see when it last sold, what it sell for. You know how much they're walking away with. And it looks like that the previous owners did. They still walked away with $300,000. Like, and I think they only bought like maybe 4 or 5 years beforehand. I could be wrong with my facts there, but they still were walking away with enough. I think there's going to be so many things that motivate people to do that. Maybe it could be a divorce. We just want to part ways and be done with it.
Do you think your relationship with the real estate agents plays a role here? So if you've got the solid relationships with the real estate agent, do you think that played a role or not as much?
I think it's just more that we wouldn't have known about it otherwise. I still think real estate agents are more likely going to be trying to get the best vendor, the best price if they want that. The vendor wanted to sell as quickly as possible, and we wanted to buy as cheap as possible. So it just happened to be a good match.
I remember a real estate agent saying to me once, there are 3 Ds for getting a quick sale: death, debt, divorce. Whenever there's a seller and they want a quick sale, it's one of those 3 things: death, debt, divorce.
Now I'm going to run into every house inspection and go, do the 3 Ds apply? Nope, I'm out of here.
Okay, that's what I cared about.
Yeah, next time you ask why are they selling, oh, nasty divorce, you're like, ding, 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 ding. The thing that one of the motivators actually for starting this podcast, Daria, is what you mentioned earlier, where you've got a lot of first home buyers buying apartments, particularly off the plan, and very few investors will buy off the plan because of just how risky it is. Yet
Right.
no one is talking about it, and no one is telling first homeowners, stay away from off the plan at the moment. The quality of the place is poor, the quality of the builders are so poor.
Right.
Buying in an apartment building with 100 other apartments, no, you're going to screw. Emma's talking about, we're talking about how do you get people outbidding themselves for your property when if and when you finally want to sell it. It's very difficult to get people competing for your apartment when there are 100 other apartments in the building. You're going to have 3 selling at the same time. Like, it's just so risky. All of the, off the plan building that's happening at the moment and people purchasing it, like, it really scares me. It really scares me. And so that was one of the main intentions for starting this podcast, to kind of show the conversations that happen behind the investing curtain and show investors saying, I would never buy an off the plan apartment.
Never would.
Yeah.
I will not do it.
No.
It's like I feel like there's too much unpredictability. Like, when's this thing actually going to be built? There's just so many delays, developers going under.
Yeah.
I've got a family friend who right now is going through that, and she's basically written off, I think, 100K because the price has increased so substantially from when. So it's 3 years later, they still haven't built it. And now they've come back and said that it's going to cost a huge amount more and that they won't build unless she signs off on that new amount. And so she's just gone, nah. And they've gone, right, we're going to keep your deposit because that's the deal. So she's basically been completely screwed over. And I'm just like, what are you going to do about it? And it's so distressing to her that she's just going to write it off because if she's going to get legal involved, it's going to cost her more money and it's going to take more time, and she just wants to get the property. So she's written it off and she's moving on. But that is a horror story. So no.
And it's a great comparison. If she had put 100 grand into, a deposit for a place in Maitland, that 3 years would have been compounding growth with that 100 grand. Instead, she's lost 100 grand. She's gone backwards relative to the competition.
Yeah, she has. And I think it looked really beautiful off the plan, but it's been a nightmare. Kind of, they've totally screwed her over. And then you Google this company, like she had no clue. You Google this company and they've you just don't know who they are and where they came from. And it's like, I don't know, they're nowhere to be found. You can't call them. And she got a hold of one phone number and they now don't pick up the phone on her. And then she tried calling from someone else's phone and they picked up and then they never called her back. So they're running, it sounds really dodgy. So just got to be careful. There's scammers out there, guys.
Developers are dangerous. Not all of them. You really have to do your research, but it is so dangerous.
I'll say one last thing is that I feel like I'm still learning when it comes to investing. I wouldn't say I know it all. I wouldn't be surprised if 2 years from now, I listen to this podcast episode and I disagree with things that I said. So I think it's just one thing where you just got to keep learning, keep listening to podcasts, reading material and speaking to people in the investor community. But now that
I think that's what makes your information so valid is that you're not an expert. So it's like you are real. You're authentically sharing your experiences as someone who has actually put their money where their mouth is. I actually can't think of a bigger expert than that. I don't know who else we would want to be talking to. You're not trying to sell anything to anyone. You're literally sharing your wisdom as you've experienced it with people, and they can take it or leave it. And there's going to be, and it's not like you're going to listen to every part of this and think, I'm going to do everything that Emma did and hope that I get the same results. No, you're going to cherry pick the best learnings that you've got that are really, truly valid. Information is power. And the more information that people like me, who I don't have huge amounts of experience in investment, have, the better off I can be. So that's what it's about. And that is why this podcast is here for people to use.
I was always just thinking, I want to come back once a year and like
we would love to have you.
Yeah, once a year, and like just keep going, okay, what do you disagree with from you 12 months ago?
Yeah, that would be pretty interesting. That would be pretty interesting. Also, by that time we'll have seen you like do another purchase, and then we can talk about that for an episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you again for joining us, Em, and have a lovely day, the rest of you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you. Bye. Thanks. Bye.
It's Beck for the last time. Emma had quite a few nuggets that will stay with me forever. Number one, houses and land are the preference. Apartments are definitely not the favorite. Number two, having the end customer in mind came up a few times. Hey, how do you build that owner-occupier appeal? How do you think about who you're actually building for, renovating for, and what they need for their household and their family? Number three, really thinking about why you're investing in property, and if it's for lifestyle and affordability, thinking outside of the capital cities and thinking about, okay, what can I get with a smaller deposit that leaves me less out of pocket every week? I've got to admit, I don't think I've been as savvy as I could be on this topic, and hearing Emma talk about it has really prompted me to think about things differently. Number four, the interest rate piece, and really thinking about, well, what do I do if these interest rates do get up to 7%? Number five, the relationships with agents. That's gold. I can't wait to deploy that. And number six, no pool. Pools are bad, no pool.
If you thought this episode was valuable, please help others to find it by finding us on Spotify, dropping a rating or review, or just sharing it with a friend who would find these stories relatable and insightful. And if you're an investor with insights to share, hit us up on Instagram at investorsinthewild or email investorsinthewild@gmail.com. After all, we're all mates helping each other. And if you're a hopeful investor, we would love to hear from you. Reach out with feedback, questions, or topic ideas. It would be great to hear what you want to see behind the investing curtain.